start reading, I will just summarize for you the previous para so that we understand what he is saying. The link is always important. Okay, so I'll just tell you briefly what he has said in the previous para. Okay? So, what he has said in the previous para. Satchidananda is the creator of the universe. Okay? But it creates it through the supermind, not by itself. It creates supermind, and from supermind it manifests the universe, which is the one becomes the many. And a consciousness inherent, hidden in the very substance of matter, is creating eternally. That's what it's saying. In the physical world, the creation is non-ending. At one end, at the highest level, there is one. But at the lower level, the many that come out, it's an eternal process. It's going on creating. We know new animal species come up, new plant species come up. It's a non-ending program. Okay, it goes on and on and on. There is stability at the highest level, but there is constant movement and change at the lower level. But it has two poles of its range. A knowledge at the very summit and an ignorance at the very bottom. This infinite consciousness, locked and hidden in matter, expresses itself in a rising upward evolution. First, it's a life that appears in dead matter, in small, infinitesimal quantas, unicellular organisms, microbes, etc. There is a growth of consciousness and a biological complexity to match the increasing consciousness. This is what he said in the previous one. So there is a consciousness which is growing, but what is the nature of that consciousness? He will tell you in the next para that we are going to read now. So,
okay, I will
decide and we read the next para. Yeah.
I will read.
Okay. Yes, read.
So, moreover, the knowledge gained is of phenomena, not of the reality of things or of the foundations of existence. Wherever our consciousness meets what seems to be a foundation, that foundation wears the appearance of a blank when it is not a void. An original state which is featureless and a multitude of consequences which are not inherent in the origin and which nothing in it seems to justify or visibly to necessitate. There is a mass of superstructure which has no clear native relation to the fundamental existence. The first aspect of cosmic existence is an infinite, which is to our perception an indeterminate, if not indeterminable. In this infinite, the universe itself, whether in its aspect of energy or its aspect of structure, appears as an indeterminate determination, boundless finite. Paradoxical but necessary expressions which would seem to indicate that we are face to face with a supra-rational mystery as the base of things. In that universe arise from where a vast number and variety of general and particular determinates which do not appear to be warranted by anything perceptible in the nature of the infinite, but seem to be imposed, or it may be self-imposed upon it. We give to the energy which produces them the name of nature, but the word conveys no meaning unless it is that the nature of things is what it is by virtue of a force which arranges them according to an inherent truth in them. But the nature of that truth itself, the reason why these determinates are what they are, is nowhere visible. It has been possible indeed for human science to detect the process or many processes of material things, but this knowledge does not throw any light on the major questions. We do not know even the rationale of the original cosmic processes, for the results do not present themselves as their necessary, but only their pragmatic and actual consequence. In the end, we do not know how these determinates came into or out of the original indeterminate or indeterminable on which they stand forth as on a blank and flat background in the riddle of their ordered occurrence. At the origin of things, we are faced with an infinite containing a mass of unexplained finite, indivisible, full of endless divisions, immutable, teeming with mutations and differences. A cosmic paradox is the beginning of all things, a paradox without any key to its significance.
It's a big paragraph, so we'll do one thing. I'll tell you in brief what he's saying, and then we'll go into details, because the details also are interesting. So, what basically he's saying is very simple in this paragraph. He's saying, but the knowledge that is available to us, because he says that there's a consciousness that is growing slowly, unicellular creatures, slightly bigger, and there's a biological complexity that goes on, 1 sense, 2 senses, 3 senses, 4 senses, finally 5 senses, finally even knowledge through the mind. So there is a biological complexity also, and there is an evolution. So what is the nature of the knowledge gained? That's what he's telling you. But the knowledge that is available to us is this of processes, not the essentials, of superficials, not the roots. We know the hows, but not the whys. Okay? We know the how of things. Science knows the how of things. That also only partially, but does not know the why. Why does the seed produce a tree? That we don't know. Why is it that this Satchidananda produces the world? We don't know that. But we know that it happens. We know that if you combine hydrogen and oxygen, we get water. But how is it that it happens? Okay. So, somewhat we know only the superficial aspects. This is what he's saying in there. So, knowledge gained in this evolution is very, very superficial. It only relates to the physical world, scientific knowledge, but not spiritual knowledge. This is basically what he's saying. Now we go back to the beginning and see, because each sentence is also very interesting. Okay. There are 2 ways of reading Sri. One is to get the basic idea of what he's saying. That can be given by the summary. The second is his language and the details of what he's saying. That's interesting. So, I go back to the beginning of the para. Moreover, the knowledge gained is of phenomena, not the reality of things or of the foundations of existence. Which is the foundations of existence? Satchidananda. He uses the word foundations, plural. So why plural? Because Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda. That's why. Okay. So foundations of existence, Satchidananda. Although there are 3, 4 different things, including supermind, 5 things, they are actually all one. Okay. Satchidananda is only one. So we do not understand. Science can understand certain things, laws that operate in the physical world, but does not operate from where they are coming. It does not understand what they are coming from where. Wherever our consciousness meets what seems to be a foundation, that foundation wears the appearance of a blank. When it is not a void, okay, an original state which is featureless and a multitude of consequences which are not inherent in the origin and which nothing in it seems to justify or visibly to necessitate. The para goes on, the sentence goes on, there is a mass of superstructure which has no clear native relation to the fundamental existence. So we'll go into the details of this sentence, very interesting. Wherever our consciousness meets what seems to be a foundation. So what's he meaning? He's saying that when we try to understand the process of the universe, what is all this? So you start meditating, you start wanting to know. Okay, this is what happened to Buddha. He is seeing the suffering in the world, he is seeing the old age coming, he is seeing death, okay, and he sees the disease. So he says, I want to understand what this is. So when he starts understanding, what does he end up with? He ends up with the nirvana experience. That's the first. This is what happens to all those who are seeking knowledge. Okay? You make your mind silent and you come to the self. You call it the nirvana, you call it the Brahman consciousness, you call it. But essentially, whatever name you call it, it is essentially 3, 4 things. One, it's a consciousness which is static, which is indescribable because it is featureless, and it is infinite, eternal, and absolutely featureless. So So this is what you end up with. And if it is featureless, now Surendra is saying, is that the origin? How is it that something zero is producing these 150,000 million things in the physical world? How are all these many coming out of that which seems to be nothing at all? Okay. Now look at the sentence, you will see that. Wherever our consciousness meets what seems to be a foundation, okay, the self is not the foundation. The self is the middle path, okay, because that's what you encounter first. The foundation is really the supermind or the Satchidananda. But you are in the spiritual planes of consciousness, which is the second level, and you think that that's a foundation. Okay. That foundation wears the appearance of a blank, featurelessness. That's what it meaning. When it is not a void, okay. Now that's interesting. He's making a difference between blank and void. So void, shunyam, is what the Buddhists are saying. So everybody is saying it is not really a void, it's a blank. In other words, that which seems to be empty is full of all possibilities. That's the difference between a blank and a void. So you can say blank, featureless but full. Void, featureless and empty. Okay, you can interpret in both ways. That's what it's saying. When it is not a void. An original state which is featureless and a multitude of consequences which are not inherent in the origin. So in the physical world, when you look, you see infinite variety. But I am in the origin of things, I am in the Brahman consciousness, and that is zero. So how is there is no link between the zero of the one and the many, which are all the forms in the physical world? It's a puzzle. That's why it's a mystery. Even in the spiritual world, it's a mystery. And which nothing in it seems to justify or visibly to necessitate. How does the many absolutely solid features come out of that which is featureless? There is a mass of superstructure which has no clear native relation to the fundamental existence. Now, the mass of superstructure, the physical world, with its all mass of infinite forms. Fundamental existence, the self, the Brahman consciousness, this is featureless. The featurelessness of the fundamental existence is creating this mass of superstructure. Clear? The first aspect of cosmic existence is an infinite which is to our perception an indeterminate. Okay. Now, the first aspect is talking of the spiritual planes of consciousness. Remember these three levels, then it becomes easy to understand. Level 1, you are in ignorance, the world is real to you, you are seeing the many and you think they are real. But you are not seeing the entire truth. You want to know the truth, you make a huge effort and you go to the silent mind and you end up with the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness. These are the spiritual planes, the second level. But the real secret is hidden in the third level, the supermind. Okay, sir. Now, when it is which has no clear relation, no clear name, and Brahman consciousness, you come to the conclusion that the two are absolutely opposites. One is the higher one, the spiritual consciousness is absolutely featureless and the world is features. This is one, that is the many. The Brahman consciousness is static and infinite. The physical world is constant movement and not static at all, constantly moving, okay, in movement. So they are absolutely opposite. So no clear relation between those two things. The first aspect of cosmic existence, the first aspect is an infinite which is to our perception an indeterminate. Indeterminate, featureless. Indeterminate. Yeah, tell me.
A clear native, in that sentence, it is which has no clear native relation to the fundamental. Why native? What is the meaning of native here?
Oh, native means he is referring to the fundamental existence.
Okay.
Native means that which is the origin. Huh?
Okay.
Native is when birth is there. Nah? So where is the physical world coming from? It is taking birth from the Brahman consciousness. So when he is saying native relation, he is talking of the Brahman consciousness. The Brahman consciousness does not seem to have any relation with the with the physical world, which is the mass of superstructure. Native relation. Okay. In other words, when you get to the self, the Brahman consciousness, which is featureless, in that featureless, you don't see any relation at all with the physical world. That's why the native. Native is the birth. And the universe is taking birth in the Brahman consciousness, because that's where you have gone, and you see that that's the origin. But the origin does not seem to have any relation with the physical universe. Physical universe is describing the mass of superstructure and fundamental existence. Is the word native clear? Very often he uses the word native.
Yeah. No.
It belongs to that particular level. So here when he's talking of native relation, he is talking of the spiritual planes of consciousness in which you get the Brahman consciousness, the static self. Okay, native. Very often he uses this word, so it's good to understand what he's saying. The birth of the universe is coming from the Satchidananda. So Satchidananda is the native cause of the universe.
Okay. Now it's very clear, Ranganath. Thank you so much. It's very clear now.
Okay. So, the first aspect of cosmic existence is an infinite, which is to our perception an indeterminate. Okay? Indeterminate features. If not indeterminable, he's saying that you can also come to the conclusion that, oh, this Brahman consciousness is absolutely without any features, I can't even understand. But you may come to the conclusion that you can never know it. That is the if not indeterminable. It can never be determined. You can never know the ultimate reality. Then you end up with the what is called the agnosticism. There are many people who say, I believe in God, but it's impossible to know Him. So you can take two stances. I want to know Him and I feel that He is knowable. But there are many others who may feel, God, I want to know Him and I believe that He is there, but it is impossible to know Him. Agnosticism. Now the word agnosticism can have two meanings. One is impossible to know Him, or He exists and I think it is possible to know Him, but right now I do not know what He is. So that also is agnosticism. There are several shades of the meaning. Okay. Agnosticism can be interpreted as not knowable at present or not knowable ever. That's the agnosticism. Both are agnosticisms. Okay, so in this infinite, the universe itself, whether in its aspect of energy or its aspect of structure, appears as an indeterminate determination. Okay, a boundless finite, paradoxical but necessary expressions which seem to indicate that we are face to face with a supra-rational mystery as the base of things. In that universe arise. From where? He is asking. Okay. A vast number and variety of general and particular determinates which do not appear to be warranted by anything perceptible in the nature of the infinite, but seem to be imposed, or it may be self-imposed upon it. So that's huge sentence, and there are so many dash, comma dash, and or. So we'll have to examine all the different the cases that he is talking about. Okay, so again, we go back to the beginning. So he's saying, in this, the first aspect of cosmic existence is an infinite, which is to our perception an indeterminate. Okay? So this is very clear. He is referring to the experience of the self. It's an indeterminate, not the physical world, because the physical world is determinate. There are stones, there are trees, very, very clear forms are there. Okay? It is very determinated. It has got clear features and forms. No? So, when he is talking of the indeterminate, he is talking of the self, okay? Which is that featureless. If not indeterminable. So, when you get that experience, you can come to two conclusions. You can say that the spirit is a blank, okay? But it can never be known. You may say it can never be known, or you may come to the conclusion like the Buddhists that is the nature of the infinite. That is the original source. And it remains absolutely indeterminable. Okay, that's the final. Or you may come to indeterminable when you say, then that means there is something which can never be known. Okay? Or you may say that itself is the final product. That's Buddhists. Okay? And the Mayavadins also. They say that the nature of the spirit is indeterminable. Okay? And it is indeterminate also. So we just disappear into the infinite. So now I come to the next sentence. In this infinite, the universe itself, whether in its aspect of energy or its aspect of structure. Now, aspect of energy is the energy that you see in the physical world. The storms, the sea, the tides, the wind blowing, the river coming down. This is the aspect of energy. The tsunami, all this is energy. Okay? The sun shining, giving light, the stars going round and round. Okay? Not the. This is what he's saying. Energy you see everywhere, or its aspect of structure. Now, when we speak of structure, you are talking of form. It is structured very well when you use the word. It is form. So when he is talking, its aspect of structure means matter. Aspect of energy means Shakti. Okay? Both are there in the physical world. You see structure, you see physical forms, but you also see the energy. Okay? So this is what he's saying. So he's saying in this infinite, the universe itself, it has both. It has got energy as well as structure, forms. Appear as an indeterminate determinations. Okay, so now that's very interesting. When you look at the universe entirely, it's puzzling. From where is this coming? What is the source of all this? So it is indeterminate. But there are determinations. You see a stone very clearly has got a form. You see a tree which has got form. You see animals. You see human beings. So very clear determination means fixed forms. So therefore, but it is infinite. So you end up with the word boundless finite, which is putting in double quotes because I think he is quoting from some maybe scientists, because science calls the word a boundless finite. The boundless finite is almost a contradiction in itself. A boundless finite. That's the nature of the world. That's why science also comes to the idea that if you start going in one direction, will you keep going infinitely in that direction only? Science has got an idea that no, you will come back to the starting point because space is curved. So it is finite. Okay? But it is boundless. Same they now saying, I am using very funny words, indeterminate determination and a boundless finite. It is paradoxical. I am using words which are paradoxical, but they are necessary expressions. I can't do anything else, okay? Which would seem to indicate that we are face to face with a suprarational mystery as the base of things. So, to the ordinary human mind, it seems to be a suprarational mystery. The world is coming from where? We don't know. And even when I come to know that it is coming from a silence and a Brahman consciousness, there doesn't seem to be any relation between the two. I just can't understand in the universe. So he is asking from where is all this coming? Okay, so in that universe arise a vast number and variety of general and particular determinates. Okay, so now we have to understand what's a general determinate and what's a particular determinate. Okay, so because this is the nature of the universe. I gave you the other idea that I told you that we can take off, say, molten metal is the general determinate because it's got features. I can say it is liquid, it is red, it is glowing, it is hot. So it's a determinate. But that molten metal can take particular forms. So it can become a sheet of steel, not steel, iron, or it can become a rail putty, okay, or it can become an ingot, or it can become a wire. So all these things I can do from the molten metal. So those are the particular determinants. Or if you want to go to animals, you can say the dogs, okay, take dogs only, okay. They are the general determinants, okay. So if you think of the dog species, you call them canines. Okay? Or if you take of the cats, you can call them the felines. Okay? Or if you think of horses, you can call them, what's the word? Equine. Okay? Because their hooves are there. All the animals which have got hooves, okay, cows, horses, okay, zebras, all these have got hooves. So they are the equines. So that's the general determinate. Now the zebras are the particular determinates, the horses are the particular determinates, the cows are the particular determinates. In America you have these, what are they called? The wild elephant, the bulls. There's a word they use, I forgot the word. Okay. So anyway, so it's clear now, no? General determinate?
Bison,
that's the word.
Bison.
Thank you, Yasmin. So bison, these are all the particular determinates. And the general determinate is what I called just now the hooved animals. Okay. Or if you want felines, okay, cats, lions, tigers, leopards, pumas, these are the particular determinates. And the general determinates, the felines. If you come to the dogs, then they are the, what you call the canines. They have got canine teeth. No? So they are the, and what are they? There are dogs, there are foxes, there are so many other animals which have got this type of thing. No? Or hyenas. Okay? These are all the particular determinates. Clear? General determinate and particular determinate. Both are determinates. And they are all coming from the indeterminate, okay, which do not appear to be warranted by anything perceptible in the nature of the infinite. When I look at the infinite, it's a blank. How is the blank producing all these things? Okay, but seem to be imposed. Okay, it's almost as though on the blank I am imposing all these forms. Or he is giving another idea. Is it being imposed from outside or is it being imposed from inside? Okay. Or it may be self-imposed. Both are possible. This is theory also in science also. Science says life is imposed on matter. But Sri is saying it's not imposed from matter from outside. It is imposed from within. Self-imposed. The idea of involution is still not there in science. They have not still been able to understand that matter itself is producing life and life itself is producing mind, like the collapsible telescope or the Russian doll. Okay, so that the idea has still not come to science. They feel that it is imposed on it. So very clear what Sri is saying now. Seem to be imposed or it may be self-imposed. Whatever, in both the cases, it's a mystery. Okay, upon it. We give to the energy that produces them the name of nature. We give, okay, nature is producing all these things. Okay. It is force and it is creating forms. We go back to those two words, structure and energy. Okay. Both are there in the physical world. Aspect of energy, force. And force is creating structures, forms, physical forms. Okay. So, see how interesting the words are, and you have to give it the right meaning, everything becomes clear. Okay? So, then we continue with this. So, impose upon. We give to the energy which produces them the name of nature. But the word conveys no meaning unless it is that the nature of things is what it is by virtue of a force which arranges them according to the inherent truth in them. Now he is suggesting, okay, you are seeing energy and you are seeing forms. Is it possible that they are two different things? Or is it possible that force itself has got the power to create forms? That's what he's asking. No? The word conveys no meaning unless it is that the nature of things is what it is by virtue of a force which arranges them according to an inherent truth in them. The inherent truth is the power to create forms. Okay? So, that's what he's saying. But the nature of that truth itself, the reason why these determinates are what they are, is nowhere visible. Even if you admit that, okay, one explanation is force has got the power to create forms. But where are those forms coming from? And how does it produce all these things? That is still a mystery. One of the biggest mysteries is that the seed has absolutely no hint even of a tree, and yet a tree comes out. This is a big mystery. Everything when you look at the physical world, it's a mystery. How is it that first of all, a caterpillar becomes a cocoon? How the hell does it become a cocoon? And the cocoon produces a butterfly. Where is the difference between the caterpillar and the cocoon and the butterfly? No relation at all. How is this happening? It's a huge mystery to us. Okay? So, in the spiritual planes of consciousness, the mystery remains. The only advantage of the spiritual planes of consciousness is that you can release yourself from this problem and say, okay, I don't want to bother about the problem because there are too many restrictions and too much of ignorance and too much of falsehood and too much of perversions in the physical world. I escape. So you don't solve the problem, but you escape from the problem in the spiritual planes of consciousness. But if you want to solve the problem, you have to go to the third level. There everything becomes clear in the supermind. Mind you, even in the overmind, which is just one step below the supermind, the problem continues to remain. There is a huge dichotomy between spirit and matter, between the spiritual planes of consciousness and the physical world. There is a huge difference. But the nature of the truth itself, the reason why these determinates are what they are, is nowhere visible. It has been possible indeed for human science to detect the process or many processes of material things. We have found out how it happens. We know that if we combine oxygen and hydrogen, we get water. But there is no sign of water at all in hydrogen, nor in oxygen. From where the hell does it come? It's a mystery. Okay? But this knowledge does not throw any light on the major question. And what is that major question? We do not know even the rationale. Okay. Suki read the word rationale, that's correct. Or you can also read it rationally. Okay. Of the original cosmic processes. For the results do not present themselves as the necessary, but only the pragmatic and actual consequence. Yes, we know that the seed produces the tree. It's a pragmatic consequence. We can easily make the connection between the seed and the tree. But how does it come? We still don't know. That's what it is. In the end, we do not know how these determinates came into or out of the original indeterminate or indeterminable. He is repeating that this Brahman consciousness, you can see it as indeterminate or you can also consider it indeterminable. Impossible to know the origin of things. That's the agnosticism. In fact, Srenda has in one place he says, in a certain sense, the end result of all knowledge is agnosticism. So, whatever level you go to, there seems to be something still unknowable, unless you go to the third level. If you go to the third level, everything falls into place. So, there the question of indeterminability and agnosticism disappears completely at the supramental level. And that's the interesting part. Even today in India, there is so much of spirituality, but nowhere, no one does speak about the supermind. Okay? All the Sadguru and Amritananda Mahima, all these people are speaking wonderful things, but they are all limited to the spiritual planes of consciousness only. Much of what they say is true, and what, as Yasmin was pointing out, sometimes it can be misleading also what they say, because they are not at the absolute truth. So you have to come to Sri Aurobindo to do that. And that is why Sri Aurobindo is not appreciated so commonly. He is something far above the normal, even spiritual man. Okay. So that's the thing. So, in the end, we do not know how these determinates. The determinates are the seed, if you want. Okay, the felines or the canines. Okay, they are the determinates which produce the general determinates. They produce the particular determinates, on which they stand forth as a blank and flat background in the riddle of their order occurrence. So, we don't know from where they come. At the origin of things, we are faced with an infinite containing a mass of unexplained finites. An indivisible, full of endless divisions, and immutable, teeming with mutations and differentiae. A cosmic differentiae is the plural of differentia. Okay? A cosmic paradox is the beginning of all things, a paradox without any key to its significance. The science is finding out the processes of things, but never the origin of things. That's what Sri is saying. In other words, if you want, in very, very short, what he's saying is, there's an evolution. But the evolution, the knowledge that is available to us is of processes, not the essentials, the superficials, not the roots, the how of things, but not the why of things. That's what he's saying in the paragraph. We have come to 8:28. I think we can read one more para. Maybe we cannot discuss it, but we will go into. So, see, you can see. Pardon?
I can read.
Okay, go ahead, read it. Okay. It is possible indeed.
It is possible indeed to question the need of positing an infinite which contains our formed universe, although this conception is imperatively demanded by our mind as a necessary basis to its conceptions, for it is unable to fix or assign a limit whether in space or time or essential existence beyond which there is nothing, or before or after which there is nothing. Although too the alternative is a void or nihil, which can be only an abyss of the infinite into which we refuse to look. An infinite mystic zero of non-existence would replace an infinite X as a necessary postulate, a basis for our seeing of all that is to us existence. But even if we refuse to recognize anything as real except the limitless expanding finite of the material universe and its teeming determinations, the enigma remains the same. Infinite existence, infinite non-being or boundless finite, all are to us original indeterminates or indeterminables. We can assign to them no distinct characters or features, nothing which would predetermine their determinations. To describe the fundamental character of the universe as space or time or space-time does not help us. For even if these are not abstractions of our intelligence, which we impose by our mental view on the cosmos, the mind's necessary perspective of its pictures, these too are indeterminates and carry in themselves no clue to the origin of the determinations that take place in them. There is still no explanation of the strange process by which things are determined or of their powers, qualities and properties, no revelation of their true nature, origin and significance.
Okay, so we are at 8:31. We have got 4 minutes. So what I will do today, we will I will tell you the summary of what I'm saying here. Then next time we can go into detail. But you will tell me clearly if you are interested in the details. I find it very interesting because you saw there are so many phrases there that we had to unravel. So if you are not interested in the details, you will tell me frankly. But if you are interested in the details, we will go on. So today, I am just summarizing for you the paragraph that we have just now read. Okay, so. But one may question the need of postulating, hypothesizing an infinite. Why do we have to say that there is an infinite which is producing the finite? We don't need to do that. It's a hypothesis. But the mind insists on it. Somehow or other, when we look at the universe, we feel that everything is coming because there is an infinite. The production of it is infinite. The universe, even the physical universe seems to be infinite. However, deeply we go into space, okay, 500 light years away, 300, 3000 light years away, there doesn't seem to be any limit. There's going on. And we are discovering without Hubble telescope that there's no end to it. Even 1000 light years away, there is something. So it's infinite. It imposes itself on the mind. Okay? But the mind insists on it. If there is a finite only, the mind questions what is there beyond that point. So this is how the mind has to think of the infinite. If you think of a finite, immediately the question comes up, what is there at the end of that? So you find it very, is it a zero or what is it? Something has to be there. So what is there beyond that point? Even if you say only a void, still it's an infinite void. So there is something beyond that. So therefore it has to be infinite. Even the infinite, even the void is an infinite. So the idea of infinite definitely comes into the human mind. It's not there at all in the animal mind. The idea of the infinite is not there in the animal mind. But the human mind, infinite is essential. It comes automatically. That's what Chandra is saying. That infinite is still a mystery. How does that unknown, indeterminate, infinite, produce the finite known determinates of this universe? This is what is the question. We can posit an infinite, but we need not. But even if you do, that doesn't explain anything at all. How is that infinite producing the finite? That is what he's saying in the time. So, we have got only 2 minutes left, so we stop here today.